Welcome to the high entropy zone once again. I have done a little bit of tidying up, so there's been a localised drop in entropy at least. It's been a little while since I put anything up. The last thing I think was the fast cam belt change, or reasonably fast cam belt change on my old Sport in readiness for the track day. The track day turned into a little bit of a disappointment for me. I'd not had a good week leading up to it. On the Wednesday, everything that could go wrong went wrong. Some things that couldn't go wrong still went wrong anyway. And I did not arrive at the campsite in a good state of mind. And I was really tired, but we got everything together, got up in the morning, got to the track, got the bike unloaded, or the bike's unloaded because I had the club bike on the trailer as well. Everything got put through noise testing, got put through scrutineering, no problems. Riders briefing, went out for the first session, which is the one where they have us do 3 laps behind an experienced rider who is showing people the racing line for those who are not familiar with the circuit. And for the rest of that session I followed my friend Martin. I haven't yet delved into the camera to see what kind of footage I got of him. I was having problems with the camera shifting on its mountings at various points. But yeah, I thought of follow Martin round so that I'd get some footage of him riding. He's the guy who's got the modified suspension I built in there, which is now working much better, but we still need to do some more development work, change some of the hole sizes, and then start playing around with the oil weight, or rather maybe just change the oil weight and then play with the holes till we get things right. But I didn't feel I was riding particularly well, and going out in the second session and actually riding, well, not flat out, not my flat out. Usually by the second session I can just get out there and ride, but I wasn't feeling like I had any flow, and I was making a lot of mistakes, and after coming off the track after the end of the second session, just decided to call it a day, do the safe thing, not ride again in that state of mind. And because, to be honest, I quite enjoyed the track day from that point on. I'd love to have been out there riding, but actually just relaxing and chatting to people in the paddock and doing the social side of things was very nice. Still preferred to have been on track, but there we are. Anyway, so yeah, the next day was a ride out to Lincoln Cathedral, which was very nice. Good ride out. I was feeling quite comfortable on the road riding, no problems there. We went to the Bishop's Palace, parked the bikes up, went on the cathedral tour, and then after that we had afternoon tea in the Bishop's Palace, which is now a hotel, which was a rather splendid, large variety of teas available, and a very fattening selection of cakes, very, very good cakes, very nice, and we got to take away our surplus as well for the next day. But yeah, I enjoyed that, and good socialising in the pub at the campsite that evening. Saturday was then the club's annual general meeting and the 40th anniversary rally, and not the best turnout we've ever had. The weather had been very nice, turned somewhat wet, but yeah, the AGM was pretty much a formality, and there was a whole load of little silly games and stuff. I made used old cam belts to make a set of horseshoes come quoits game to be played, and there was fishing for carburettor floats, and if you picked a marked float out, you got a voucher to be used at the bar. There was pin the tail on the Marini camel, the camel being the 500cc off-road bike, which I won, and my prize was a fluffy hedgehog. And those of you steeped in Marini lore will know the significance of winning a hedgehog. What else do we do? Oh, there was a quiz, and yeah, all in all, it was a very good day. Didn't do the technical demonstrations, cam belt change and valve clearances and carb balancing, because it was chucking it down with rain, and was very pleased. We have a regular at the track day, Bruno, who comes over from Belgium, and has done for many years, and is a lovely chap, and I had a good chat to him and got some good feedback about my Marini videos from the French Marini forum, and you know, nobody's ever left me a comment from there, but Bruno was telling me that they're very much appreciated, and you know, people are always saying, oh, why do you do it like that? If you do it like this, it's faster or it's easier. It's like, well, you know, I don't do things with a script, and yeah, I mean, I'm always finding new methods of doing things. It's mainly to show the sequencing and any particular tips I've picked up, and to be quite honest, nobody else was doing it, so these were videos that really needed to be done. So yeah, it was great to get that feedback, and anyway, we came home on the Sunday, which was a much easier journey than getting up there was. I deviated on the way back to drop the club bike off with the club members who are going to take it on the next stage of its tour with the tagline 40 riders, 40 miles for 40 years. So I have a little bit more space in here, and I can't remember if I've mentioned before the 500 Marini that I've worked on in quite a few of the videos is now sold and has a pretty happy new owner. So we'll be trying to crack on with other stuff. Now, some of the stuff I've been doing lately, I've just had to get on with it, and I'm sure, as any of you who actually make videos know, making a video tends to slow you down. You've got to think a bit more about presentation and sequencing and camera angles and how much time it's going to take you to edit it, and also you can't have the radio on. And sometimes if I want to get a job done, I just have to put Planet Rock on nice and loud, or Radio 4, particularly for the comedy, and just get on with it. You know, that's the way you get through, and unless you're going to then remove the audio and redub it, you know, you can't upload that stuff because of the copyright issues. YouTube will automatically object. So there's a few bits and pieces that I didn't even attempt to film. One of them was working on the Gilera CX here. It came off road a couple of years ago, because the charging system failed, and it appeared that the regulator had died, and the regulator is not easy to get at. There's a lot of bodywork on these bikes, and then it lives behind the radiator, and I did kind of do it by keyhole surgery. My other CX is partially dismantled, and I was able to get the regulator off fairly easily, and by pulling the radiator off its mountings I just about made room to get it all together and got the regulator in, and it was still not charging the battery properly. It was actually over. Half the time it was overvolting, half the time it wasn't charging before. So we've had it up on the bench and all the bodywork off, the radiator pulled properly forward, and discovered that there was a damaged wire which has got fixed, and it's all gone back together and it's working fine again. And yeah, they only made a couple of thousand of these, and they think there's an estimate that about half of those survive. There's maybe a couple of dozen in the country, and people just don't see them out and about, so it's quite a fun thing to ride, because you do get people coming up and saying, wow, I've only ever seen one of those in a book or a magazine. It's an interesting beast to ride, because it's a 1252 stroke, cranking out the best part of I think 28 horsepower, with a power valve that cuts in at about 8,000 RPM. It was a learner bike in Italy, but they had no horsepower restriction in the 90s. So this is, I think they quoted 105 mile an hour top speed, and it's certainly good for a fairly solid 100. It will cruise all day at 85. But riding it in traffic gets a bit interesting with it really only wants to run well under a decent amount of load, and preferably into the over 8,000 RPM in the power valve territory. And you know, if you're trying to trickle along at 30 miles an hour in town, it wants to 4-stroke or even 8-stroke, and you start having to adopt a burn and coast technique to keep the engine crisp. It's not that it doesn't pull along at 30 when misfiring, it just feels and sounds horrible. And the tyres on it are getting a bit old, so I need to get those changed before I can actually ride it with spirit. Last thing I want to do is drop it with the vast acreage of impossible to obtain bodywork. So hopefully I'm going to have a few little machining projects coming up. I'm hoping to put one on the end of this video, which is the start of recovering a Marini flywheel that I had to do well, I had to weld the puller into the flywheel because the threads for the puller had been stripped, and it needed to come off to change a cam bell. And this is going back a good few years. I did it for my friend Martin, and I got the flywheel back off him, and I'm going to get the machine the puller out, and then I'll have to see about building up the hub and recutting the threads. So hopefully we'll get some footage of that and see if we can make an effective repair of that. I've got a bunch of the flywheels or alternator rotors, whatever you want to call it, but not ones with the drum on the side for the starter mechanism. And it may be that I have to make up some drums which are pressed steel from the factory. We'll have to see about machining some from steel, or possibly cast iron, which might give a better friction coefficient if I can't recover this flywheel. And I've picked up a few tools, eBay purchases. So perhaps we'll have a look at them too. So hopefully there will be a few projects coming up before too long. I get really frustrated at sometimes not being able to get out here and get stuff done and put it on video for you all. The subscribers have climbed a little over 1,400, and it's been a steady trickle, you know, one or two a week, which is really nice to see, and the continued interest. And thank you all for watching, and please come back again. Now, some of you may remember that I have an engine boring bar that was incomplete and needed some work. Well, an identical one turned up, but in full working order at a sensible price and with just like 3/4 of an hour up the road. So I've grabbed that one, and at some stage I do intend to repair the other one. At least now I've got a pattern to work from for any replacement parts, which makes things somewhat easier. But to operate the boring bar, I wanted some more measuring tools, and this was a little eBay find. And excuse the lighting in here. So this is a rather splendid Bowers digital 3-point bore micrometer. So you've got the 3 anvils, which are a style that will go down very close to the bottom of a blind bore, and comes complete with its a setting ring, and is in pretty nice condition. It's a decent quality wooden box, and not cheap at all, but yeah, I think pretty decent value for money. Now the next item is this mist style or droplet styled coolant system, and this one is a vacuum pickup type, though there's nothing at all to stop me converting it to a pressurized coolant container. And this was very inexpensive. It was $5.99 delivered, and it is of course Chinese, but the brass parts are quite nicely machined. The lock line style coolant hose feels reasonable. The block and the needle valve are all acceptable, and it's got quite a nice little pickup with a sintered filter. And you know, at $5.99 I couldn't even start to scrape together the materials for making one, so I thought I'd just order one, and if it's any good I'll probably pick up another one, and at some stage we'll hopefully see this in action. Now, I'm sure everybody recognises the bottle on the right, and big thanks to Rupert Powell and Stan Zenkowski, who got this to me. Everybody knows that Stan's been liking the Amkalube and promoting it, and is you know, arranged for discounts and samples for loads of people. This stuff was only available in the UK from a couple of sources, one of which who's dropped it, the other of which, that's a £30 bottle, plus postage, and what, there's about $1.55 to the pound at the moment. So, you know, this stuff is rivaling inkjet printer ink in cost, and hopefully we're going to get a much more cost-effective supply into the UK. Now I have tried it out a little, and it as everybody who's tried it knows, it works great and it doesn't smell. In fact, it smells rather pleasantly of almonds. But when I did the rocker stud repair on the Marini club bike, I didn't have the anchor lube in, but it caused me to go looking for my little pot of Trefolex, which is also an American product and is fairly well known and available over here. And it was certainly when I did some BTEC units on a combined electronics and engineering course, they were pushing it as a soaring compound, and it's also green. And it'd be intriguing to know whether it shares any similarities in composition to the anchor lube. It's a much darker green. It does work very well as a tapping compound, and that's generally what I use it for. And I mean, this is obviously this is from Kronos Tools, and they've decanted it into these little pots. I think it was them, and that's a sensible price to be paying for one of these, which will last a very long time. Smells more like a hand cleaning product than anything else. But yeah, being a very thick paste, it doesn't have the ability to be applied like the anchor lube. So, bringing us on to our final item. I've still at some stage got to sort out what I'm doing with my Marini Settebello race bike, which is sitting over there with the top end off the engine. I've got a couple of spare crankshafts for it, and one of the issues with changing the piston is the modern pistons have a much lower compression height. That's the difference from the centre line of the piston pin, the gudgeon pin in UK terms, and the crown of the piston. And using either the Triumph piston or in fact the Honda piston that I'm likely to use would result in me really having to shorten the barrel by about 10mm to 3/8 of an inch. However, I found someone in the US who'd already done the conversion with the Honda piston, and they replaced the Marini connecting rod with one from an MV Agusta, which was the 10mm longer, so that surgery to the barrel was not needed. So at the moment I'm looking into possible sources for the connecting rod. There is a company in Italy that lists it as a brand new replacement part. I have a contact in the MV Agusta Owners Club, and they apparently have access to a very good spares stock, and we'll see what kind of prices they come up with. But it's going to necessitate pressing apart the crankshaft, possibly machining the flywheels for a different diameter big end pin, and then when they go back together, it'll need to be aligned. And I spotted this set of bench centres which have a nice big area to stand your mag base on and get your dial indicators on the crank, and check the crank alignment. And then generally crank alignment is done by hitting it with a hammer, just to get those last couple of thou out of the thing, because it's generally where one flywheel's rotated in respect to the other on the other big end pin that's giving you your alignment issue. So Yeah, that was a buy it now eBay purchase for about £70, so I was quite pleased with that. This area here has got a load of dings in it that need to be stoned out, but apart from that, and it's in pretty good condition. So this is one of the Marini flywheels or alternator rotors. You've got the magnets in there, and it's the later type that's got the drum on the side for the starter motor centrifugal clutch, because this was kind of an afterthought, a retrofit design by Marini. When sorted, they're very easy bikes to start, but you know, the Japanese were fitting everything with an electric start, so they had to compete to some extent. With a modern battery and correctly serviced, they do work perfectly well. Now you can see that we've got a flywheel puller that I, some years ago, welded into this flywheel because the threads at the other end of the puller, because this is just a generic double-ended puller, thread into had been stripped, probably by a previous owner, not making sure the spring washer was out before they put the puller in, so the puller wasn't engaging to full depth, and it partially stripped the threads, and then the next time a puller was put in, and I don't think these pullers are hardened in any way, the threads on the puller also went, and the flywheel was on pretty tight, so we couldn't get it off, and the cam belt was well overdue for a change. So it was a case, well, the flywheel's damaged anyway, we've just got to get it off. I had another flywheel that could go on, so I welded this up, and we had no problem then getting it off. But I now need a flywheel with the starter drum. So I got this back off Martin, and I'm going to see if I can machine out the hub and rethread it, either by building it up or cutting an oversized thread and using a custom puller. But to be honest, I'd rather return it to standard threads, so I may have to TIG that up. So it's a little bit of an awkward thing to grip, and I played around with a couple of ideas, but the one that gives me the best grip on this is going to be using the 4-jaw on the inside here. So I've got some strips of aluminium wrapped around the jaws to protect the flywheel, and one advantage is it's magnetised, so it holds itself in place. So we'll just get this gripped lightly in the 4-jaw, and we'll bring in a dial gauge and get this centred up. Okay, to reset and start again, because I was having problems with the jaw protectors not staying where they were supposed to be, so I've had them all off and tightened them up. Okay. Somewhere a bit closer to where we want to be. I'm just going to bring the tool post up as a reference point. Always have to remove the jaw. Remember to move the jaws the right way, because we're expanding them into the job. Okay, we've got a little bit of tension on all the jaws. So we'll get the dial gauge in here. Let's find a better spot. I do have some timing lines on here that cause the dial gauge to jump. I think that's about as good as it's going to get. Certainly for the purposes of just getting this out, it's good enough. Now I'm going to start off by just turning down as far as I can without coming up against the drum. I have to try picking a gear. Taking pretty light cuts because I don't have a good hold on this. Keeping a watchful eye on the drum to make sure we're not coming loose. Hand feeding. I do just want to drive this thing back, and we'll keep at it. Now my thinking about machining it like I'm doing is to keep the forces towards the chuck with a minimal radial loading, but to get rid of the material fairly fast. Nearly at the end of the interrupted cut. That should make things a bit safer. we're back to interrupted cut again because I'm hitting the bore, which is off centre. So I'm just taking it a little bit easy again. So that's the majority of the material that's sticking out gone. So now I'll go in there with a boring bar, I think, and see how we do with that. So what I'm going to try and do now is to use the boring bar, but as a facing tool, coming in from the back with the spindle rotating in reverse. I may just try, let me go in and found out how far I can go safely, and we'll zero our Z there. Middle broke loose there, so I'm going to get a pair of pliers and pull that out. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Okay, I've swapped to another boring tool, and we'll see how we get on with this one for a while. Go forwards again. What I ought to check at this point is how far out we're going before we're going to be cutting into the hub rather than into the puller. I've got an early style flywheel which has got the machined outer rather than the cast, but the threads are the same. The inside diameter on the threads, well, we'll call it 20. At the moment, we'll call it 25mm. And we have 20.94, so let's put that into the Duro. Okay. And now we should be able to have a way at this with a fair degree of confidence. see how we're doing in here. Yeah, I think we take a fraction more out. And I can face it as well. If I zero the cutter on that surface, I can face that off. I'm just starting to touch the rivets there. I think we're okay. They need cleaning up anyway because they got weld material on there. So let's come out to 25mm, take another pass. There we go. That has actually screwed in the remains of the puller, so I just need to open out this diameter a little so that this inner bit will come out. Which I should be able to get a moderately sensible number for that. I think I need to come out a little more. No, I think I took the tool still feels okay. There's a hard spot from the weld in there, I think. There's something slightly odd going on. I think I'm at the point where I might have to take this, demount this and take this over to the bench and split this inner ring to get it out. So we'll probably leave it there for today.